Very nicely today, inshallah. Inshallah. I have a wonderful story to tell you today in the khutbah, so inshallah, focus with me, and inshallah we will learn so much from it. Okay? Promise? Okay, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Okay, they all promise, inshallah. Who's gonna make that? Abdurrahman? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, dear staff, dear sons and daughters from the school, I'm always greatly happy to be coming back to you, inshallah. I hope you feel the same. So the last two khutbas we spoke about the shahada. I asked the boys, inshallah, in the last row, inshallah, to be a little focused, including my own son. Subhanallah, we spoke about the shahada, and we gave some new insights to the shahada and what it really means to say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna muhammadan rasulullah. Now, the first people who listened to these words were the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, were the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What is the definition of a Sahaba, so we're all clear on that? When we say someone is a Sahabi, when we say Abu Bakr, when we say Umar, when we say Uthman, Ali, Talha, any of them is a Sahabi, what does that mean? What it means is that he is a person who met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was alive and died as a Muslim. So Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they died as a kuffar. So they are not considered the Sahaba. Why are the Sahaba so important? I want to teach you a small sentence in Arabic that consists of three words that you should be able to memorize. حب الصحابة عبادة. The love of the Sahaba is a kind of act of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who delivered Islam to us? Did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam come to our school and deliver? No. Who did he deliver it to? He delivered Islam to the Sahaba, and the Sahaba took the message and delivered it to the generation afterwards, and the generation afterwards delivered it to the generation after them. So we as true Muslims, we have to feel appreciative and feel gratitude and love for anyone who's delivered Islam to me. Because if it wasn't for them, I would have no Islam. I would not have a Quran gathered up in one book. I would be lost. Right? So that's the kind of feeling I have to have towards the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Because without them, there would be no Islam today. Now, I chose for you a very particular story from one of the Sahaba and how he came to Islam. How he came to Islam. Inshallah, I don't want to keep saying stop and focus with me, inshallah. I hope the story is interesting enough that it gathers your attention, inshallah, all of you. So someone would say, this is the first time the brother is going to speak to us about the Sahaba. For sure he's going to speak about Abu Bakr or Umar or Uthman or Ali, one of the very famous top Sahaba. No, I chose to you a Sahabi who's way up there as well, but it's all about the story, how he came to Islam. How he came to Islam, so that we all have a great lesson to learn from that. The Sahabi that I chose for you today, he is known, they call him Al-Bahith an al-Haqiqa, the seeker of the truth, the one who is spent his life seeking the truth, and spent a lot of his, mashallah, a lot of people are knowing the name. He is Salman Alfaresi. He is Salman Alfaresi. I know one here who is called Salman. He should be very honored and very happy to be called with that beautiful name. What is so special about Salman Alfaresi? Let's start from his early life. Salman radiallahu anhu, he was a son to a person who was very rich. He lived in a place called Asfahan. Asfahan is a region in Iran right now. So I want you, those who started studying geography, to start visualizing. He's where? He's in Iran. Okay? His people, what we used to call al-Majus before Islam. The Persians were called al-Majus. What does Majus mean in Arabic? It means that they were worshipping fire. That's what they used to worship, subhanallah. How silly the mind can be. A person to worship a statue that he builds with his own hands, or a fire that he starts with his own hands, and then he starts worshipping that. Subhanallah. But Salman has goodness in him. His father used to use him for some things, but he says, he's telling the story to us. He narrated the story to Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Abdullah ibn Abbas told us this story in a long hadith. He said that my father would love me so much, he was very protective of me. His father didn't let him go out too much, because he loved him more than any of his other children. But one day, his father asked him to go fetch something from the market. He asked him to go one day and seek something from the market or take care of some business. On his way, because he didn't used to go out too much, so everything was new to him. Just like if you move here, and if you just moved here to Texas from somewhere else, everything is new, right? Now, he comes across a church. He passes by the church of the Christians. And he goes inside, and he finds the way they were worshipping. Now, as a Muslim, I always have to be fair and to say, Now if you compare worshipping fire to Christians, which one is better? Christians, for sure. At least the original Christianity came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, original Christianity, right? Which is hard to find. But that's worshipping fire, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has nothing to do with that. So the instinct of Salman, that, hey, this is better than what I'm doing. So he goes back to his father and says, Father, I was passing by the church, I came across these people worshipping Christianity, and it feels to me so much better than what we're worshipping fire. Of course, automatically, just as all the people told the prophets of Allah, no, what we're doing is better. What we're doing is better. Trust me, I know. He said, what I'm doing is better. To the point that his father was very protective of him. He locked him up, and they say that he tied his foot so he couldn't leave the house. Salman, here is one very first lesson for you, is when you want something, you want the best. When you want something, you want the best for yourself. When you want to learn Arabic, you want to learn Arabic greatly. When you want to learn math, you want to be the best in math. When you want to learn the Quran, you want to memorize the whole Quran, not just one chapter. When you try to do anything in your life, you try to do it as best as you can. Now Salman didn't just settle and say, oh, I'll go with these people in this church and I'll worship with them. He said, where is the origin of this deen? Where is the best place to learn this deen of Christianity? They say Asham, the region of Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine, and Jordan right now. So they say Asham is the origin of this deen. He says, I want to go there. Just like we see, subhanAllah, the same analogy happens. Somebody becomes a Muslim, they want to go to Egypt, they want to go to Medina, they want to go to Mecca to become a true scholar, or Syria, or subhanAllah, the origins of this deen and where the great scholars exist. They don't just settle for nothing less than the best. This is how I want you to be. But if you're sitting here joking in the khutbah, you don't have that yet. So wake up, inshallah. So he goes to Asham, the reason of Asham. First thing, again, he's looking for the best. He says, who's the best person in this region so I can learn the deen from? They say the priest of this church is the best person to know about the deen. He goes to him. He says, can I accompany you? Can I serve you? Now here is, we spoiled children and even adults. Now here's a child who used to be the favorite of his father, who used to be getting the food that he desires, the clothes he desires, anything he wants, because his father was a rich and wealthy and powerful man. He gives all of that up, and he goes to become a servant from this person so that he can learn this deen, that he thinks that this deen is going to get him closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How about sacrifices? When mom is late for the food by half an hour, we're crying, we're rolling on the floor, we're doing silly things. Compare that, raise your attitude, raise your personality. You're playing with your socks, stop playing with your socks. You're joking in the khutbah, stop doing that. Take life seriously a little bit more, like Salman radiallahu anhu. Salman goes and accompanies that person and serves him. But that person turns out to be, subhanAllah, a crook. Crook meaning people used to give him sadaqah to the church, and he used to steal a lot of money from the sadaqah. So when he dies, the people were very sad. Salman tells them, by the way, this person was not a good person. He was stealing your money. He said, no way, we don't believe. He said, here is the place. If you dig in here, you're going to find the gold that you're giving him. They find that, they were very upset with that person when he died. I'm not going to tell you what they did with him. Then they replace that person and get another priest. And Salman says that this person was truly a very good person. And he learned from him humbleness and things like that. Now where was that person? In Asham. Let's just say hypothetically in Syria or in Lebanon, right? So Salman went all the way from Iran to the Sham region, Syria, Lebanon region. How long does that take on traveling on a camel? A lot of years, a lot of month and month. Some people say that this this trip, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows how authentic that is. This is, I heard it from one authentic scholar, that the trip of Salman from the time he left his home to the time he became a Muslim took about 20 years. 20 years, brothers and sisters. 20 years seeking the truth, seeking to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way Allah wants him to worship him. So he goes to this person and accompanies that person again. Now when that person was dying, he says, I don't know anyone who follows true Christianity except you. Where should I go? He said, you go to I only know one person. See how, subhanAllah, how scarce it was to have true Christianity in this earth. He says, you go to this person in a place called Nasibin. Nasibin, they say it's somewhere between Turkey and Syria, in that region. Nasibin. He goes there, accompanies the person, the priest in that region. Again, he was a good man. Before he dies, he says, where should I go? He says, you go, the only person on the face of the earth left, only person left on the face of the earth left who knows true Christianity is a person in a place called Amuriya. Amuriya, again, is in the Turkey-Syria region. This is a place where the Mu'tasim went and saved. You remember why Mu'tasim? If you know that, this is the place that Al-Mu'tasim, may Allah be pleased with him, he sent an army to free one Muslim woman who said, why Mu'tasim? It was in Amuriya. Salman goes and accompanies the person in Amuriya, the priest in Amuriya, and he says that he was again a good person until the time of death of that person came. Now Salman knows no one except that person to teach him true Christianity. Then he asked him, where should I go after you die? Who should I go to? He says, son, it's done. No more true Christianity. I don't know anyone on the face of the earth who knows the true religion that we are following anymore. But here's a beautiful story and belief for us that we are on the truth, inshallah, as Muslims. He said there is a prophet, a new prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's about to come out. And he lives in this place, in the land of the Arabs. And he lives between two places, in a place where the entrance, there's two big pieces of rock. And there's some green and some trees in there. Automatically Salman is not thinking, hey man, I went from Iran to Lebanon to Turkey, now I'm going to go to, like, say, Saudi Arabia region. This is serious travel, brothers and sisters. If we do it by plane today, wallahi, we will be tired. If I or you do it by plane, we will be tired. It will take us 20, 30 hours of travel, subhanallah. How did he do it on camels? What's the motivation that kept him going? To please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we call him the seeker of the truth. And I want you to know in your heart, when you seek to do something good, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always open the doors for you to make that happen. We all have our personal stories and we all can testify to that. So Salman asked about the people around him. He had now he has been working for a lot of years. He's gathered up some money in the form of some cows and some cattle. He asked some people, a caravan that was traveling back to the Arabian Peninsula. He said, when you go, can you take me with you? Here's all I own. Take it and just carry me with you. They took all he owned. And now they ended up, subhanAllah, being crooks again. They took him and sold him as a slave. They took him in addition to taking his money, they sold him as a slave. Subhanallah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? Al-Kareem, the most generous. If you're trying to please, think about that. If you're trying to please someone who is generous in this dunya, what is the response of this person? There's going to be a lot of generosity, right? When you're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most generous, do you think you're going to try to seek to get to Allah and Allah will close the door to you? Allah will say, I don't want you. I don't want you to come to me. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open the doors open wide. You're dealing with the most generous subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he said, they took him as a slave and they sold him to a Jew in the Sham region. They sold him again to a Jew. Now he's working for his master, in that Jew person who subhanallah, who bought Salman. The Jews started migrating to the Arabian Peninsula because the prophecy said that most of the prophets before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were from Banu Israel, from the Jews. But the prophecy was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to come out from the Arabian Peninsula. The Jews assumed that the person or the prophet, the last prophet, is going to come from us again, from the Jews. So they started migrating to Medina and Mecca, so that they become, subhanAllah, especially Medina, so that they become, one of them will give birth to this prophet. That's why there were Jews in Medina. What were the Jews doing in Medina? They were waiting for the prophet to come from amongst them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose it to be from the generation of Ismail alayhi salam. What happens after that? Subhanallah, when Allah wants something to happen, it will happen. Another Jew friend of that person, who is from the tribe of Banu Qurayza. Banu Qurayza lives where? Lives in Medina. He visits his friend, and he says, oh, this is a great slave that you have. See, even when he was a slave, he was sincere and he worked hard and he took it serious. No matter what job, if you're an engineer or you're a doctor, you work hard. If you're working in a gas station, you work hard as well. The Muslim has the right attitude all the time. All the time. If I get paid well, I work well. If I don't get paid well, I also work well. Because I'm a Muslim, I'm doing it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and no one else. He says, can I buy him from you? He says, go ahead. So the Jew from Banu Qurayza buys Salman and takes Salman where? Medina. Salman is entering Medina. He sees the sign that this is the city where Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to come out, or is going to migrate. And just like the prophecies that the priest from Amoriya told him. It has rocks, it has trees, and he's mashallah saying, this inshallah must be it. This is where this last prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to come out. So Salman, he started working for this Jew from Banu Qurayza, and the Jew from Banu Qurayza has his cousin visiting over, and his cousin started talking about Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, about to just came to Medina from Mecca, and the people are gathering around him. Salman hears that. He said, I was on a tree gathering dates. I almost fell off the tree when I heard that. And he comes to them rushing. He said, what are you talking about? Prophet where? And then his master punches him and says, that's none of your business, because the Jews were taking the opposite direction of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam at that time. Go back to your work, don't bother about that. But he heard that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is gathering with his followers in the masjid, the first masjid in Islam, Masjid Khutba. Now, the priest in Amoriya told Salman 3 prophecies, or 3 signs that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is truly the Prophet of Allah. He said, first one, he said, لا يأكل الصدقة. If you give him money, sadaqah money, he doesn't take sadaqah as a person. And this we know that the Prophet ﷺ and his family don't eat from the sadaqah or from the zakah. Number 2, he accepts the gifts, he accepts the hadiyah. Prophet ﷺ always accepted gifts and always gave a lot of gifts. Number 3, he has this piece of skin that they call Khatam al-Nubuwah, the seal of the prophethood, that's between his shoulders. If you find those 3 signs, he is truly the Prophet of Allah. Now Salman is a person of very high determination, high attitude. He sees that these are the signs that this person is Muhammad, but he wants to make sure for himself. So that night, after he heard the rumors, he takes some dates that he had bought, and he goes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says, I heard about you, and I heard you have a lot of followers, so to support, I got you some sadaqah to help you out. Salman is watching. What is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam going to do with the dates? The Prophet ﷺ gave the dates to his companions, and he did not eat from it. So sign number 1 done. He does not eat from the sadaqah. The next day, Salman goes again And what does he do this time? He gets Prophet of Muhammad. He didn't become a Muslim yet. He's saying, Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, here's a gift for you, some dates that I got for you as a gift. He noticed that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam takes one and eats it. Sign number 2. So he did not eat from the sadaqah, and he ate from al-hadiyah. Sign number 3. Now how is he going to see between the shoulders of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Now we have to also pay attention that Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam is very smart. He's paying attention to every single one of his companions, what are they doing, just like I'm paying attention to every one of you as you're making little silly things. So he says, subhanallah, that there was a funeral at that day. One day there was a funeral, and the Prophet ﷺ was helping his companions to bury this person. So Salman is sitting there in the back waiting for anything to get exposed from the back of Rasulullah ﷺ while they're burying that person. Rasulullah ﷺ notices that, and he knows that this person is just trying to see the sign. So Prophet ﷺ exposed his back just a tiny bit so that Salman sees the seal of the prophethood. Salman sees that. Now imagine that. Now let's pause for a second. He's been traveling for 20 years. He's been enslaved multiple times. He's been tortured. He's been beaten. He's been overworked. And he doesn't care about any of that. This is the moment he's been waiting for, to say, I got to the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I got to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the straight path. When Salman sees that, he breaks down in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and starts crying like a little baby. Because this is truly the day he is born. The day we are born is when we come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not the day that our mothers gave birth to us. You could be a Muslim since the day you were born and your parents wrote in your birth certificate that he's a Muslim, but you're living a wild life. And one day when you come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the true day that you were born. Or the day that you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And he takes the shahada. Now Salman is a Muslim now. But one problem still exists. One big problem still exists. Salman is a slave. He's a slave to the Jew. He's not free to go do salah whenever he wants. He's not free to go, fight with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He missed Badr, he missed Uhud. He can't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly. So how does Salman overcame the slavery? Inshallah, we'll finish that in the second part of the khutbah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله على إحسانه والشكر له على توفيقه وامتنانه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له تعظيما لشانه وأشهد أن نبينا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وأخوانه أما بعد. Now there used to be something, Islam subhanallah set the rules that ended slavery. Islam did not start slavery, Islam ended slavery. Islam put the rules that subhanallah a lot of the slaves were freed. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked at Salman once and he said, go to your owner, and he says, do what they call al-mukataba. Do mukataba with him. What does mukataba means? Means if you're a slave, you go to your owner, he says, how much do you need for me to be free? He says $500. Okay, then you go work hard and borrow money from your friends, you come up with the $500, you give it to him, you're a free man. Now there was no dollars back then. So Salman goes to his master and says, let's do mukataba. His master was a miser, was not a very honest person. He asked him for the most ridiculous thing he can ever think of. He's making it very hard for Salman to be a free man. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on your side, is the miser going to stop you from becoming a free man? No way. He asked him for 300 date trees that are giving fruits. 300 date trees. You know, when we say sometimes some of the stories of some of the Sahaba who donated what they call a bustan, or like a big garden full of date trees, this is probably bigger than that. And they're all giving fruit. For the Arabs, when they used to, let's say, plant 10 date trees, not all of them would live. Out of the 10, maybe 10 or 3 would live and the rest would die. Now this person didn't say just plant 300 trees. He says, I want 300 trees that are giving fruit. How long does it take also from the time you plant a date tree to the time it starts giving dates? A lot of time. A lot of time. 10, 15 years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows how much. But it's a lot of time. But here's the barakah. Here's the blessing. Here's the blessing that you're trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam looks at the companions and says, help your brother. Let's all learn from that. Help your brother. Everybody who has date trees, you start getting little pods from their gardens. This person gave him 10, this person gave him 15, this person gave him 20. And he has 300 date tree pods that are ready to be planted. Our beloved Prophet ﷺ, and I want you to learn this very much. It's going to help you, Allah, in your dunya and in your hereafter. Lead by example. Lead by example. Don't expect to be a good person. Don't expect to be not a good person and expect your children to be good people. It's not going to happen. Don't expect to be a good manager, a bad manager, and your employees are performing well. If you want to be good as an elder brother and an elder sister or something, and inshallah not too long from now you're going to have your own home, you have to lead by example. How did the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam lead by example here? He said, Salman, don't plant any of the trees yet. Sorry if the story inshallah is getting a little long, but inshallah we're almost there. He said, don't plant any of the trees, just dig for them, dig the holes for them, and I will come and plant them. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the most honorable man to come on this earth, he goes and plants 300 trees himself. And the companions were ready to do everything for him. But he said, he's showing us an example of leading by example, supporting the one he loves, supporting the one he cares. When he does that to Salman, how much love and gratitude does Salman have for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as long as he lives? Little things that we do to others opens the heart of people. That smile that's missing on your faces, that opens the heart to people. That attention and responsiveness to your teachers, that opens the heart of the teacher. You'll find the teacher is a better teacher when you are responsive, when you have a better attitude. Why is that? Because she's not wasting time saying, stop this, stop that, let's do this. She's going to the advanced things. So then they plant the 300 trees. And who planted that? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with his own honorable hand. None of the trees died, which is unheard of. None of the trees died, and very shortly they all started giving fruits. This is a miracle from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, specifically to Salman. Now the Jew asked for another thing. He said 300 trees, date trees, that give fruit and 40 ounces of gold. Now you're buying like 100 slaves or what? Like he was outrageous in what he asked because he didn't want to set Salman free. From one of the battles, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had this egg made of gold and he gave it to Salman. He said, go, give it to the Jew, inshallah it will suffice. Salman himself, narrating the story to us, says, I told Rasulullah, but this is not 40 ounces of gold, no way. He said, just go and wait it. He goes and it's exactly 40 ounces of gold. Salman is a free man now. Salman is a free man. Salman is a free man that the companions from people of Mecca, the Muhajireen and the companions from Al-Ansar, they used to fight does Salman belong to. The Ansar, the people of Mecca say, Salman migrated just like us, he is from the Muhajireen. And the Ansar says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Salman minna Ahl al-Bayt, so Salman is from amongst us. Prophet alayhi salatu wa sallam, and the hadith, some people say it has issues, but Salman is way up there with the rest of the companions. So Prophet ﷺ said, Salman minna Ahl al-Bayt. Salman is from my family. Who's saying that? Which family? The most honorable family. The family of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. The most famous thing we know about Salman is his prediction of digging the trench. In Ghazwat al-Khandaq, when the different tribes came to attack the Medina, Salman was the person to give the advice to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to dig the trench. He said, in Persia we used to do that to protect ourselves. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took from him the advice and they dug the trench. This is one of the most famous things that Salman was known for. What do we learn to sum up? How do I correlate to Salman? I want you inshallah today to go and talk to your mother or your father. Tell them the story, what you remember. You may have missed some details. Share it with the ones you love. When we get any little bit of knowledge, we have to share it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Ballighu anni walau ayah." Even if it's a short ayah, even if all you understand in Islam is Qul huwallahu ahad, deliver it to others. Don't just listen to this beautiful story and stop there. And these stories are not told just for amusement. What am I, your brother Muhammad here, what am I going to learn from Salman? As I was preparing the khutbah, Salman is teaching me to have higher determination. I can do more. I can do better than what I'm doing now. I can have better attitude. Right? I can keep up with some tough hardships in my life as well as Salman. You know, it's nothing compared to what Salman has gone through. We have to be a little bit patient. We have to show the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has blessed us with has to show. We have to learn about the Sahaba and how beautiful their life was and how dedicated their life was. And I encourage all of you young ones to read about the Sahaba. And every one of you from this young age will love certain Sahaba. Some of you today will say, Salman is my favorite Sahabi. I want another one to go and read more and say, Abu Ubaidah is my favorite Sahabi. Another one to say, Umar is my favorite Sahabi. And inshallah one day when you have a child, you call him Salman, you call him Umar, you call him Abu Bakr, you call him Ali, you call him these things and you teach him these stories. Because these stories are not for amusement. These stories are to lift us up, to make us stronger, to make us behave better, as I've told you in the last khutbahs. I want you to be good companionship for each other, to be good example for how a Muslim school is supposed to be. What did Salman do in everything he did? He wanted the best. He asked, where's the origin of the deen? Where's the best person who knows about this deen? Where can I learn this deen the best? Now you have an opportunity here to learn Quran, to learn some Islamic studies, to learn some Arabic. Are we taking enough advantage of that? Inshallah you are. And inshallah you do better and better and better. Because you want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-Kareem, the most generous, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will please us and will make people like us and will give us success in this dunya and in the hereafter. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Inshallah I'm going to say my dua and inshallah you say Ameen after me. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين. اللهم وحد كلمتنا على ما تحب وترضى. اللهم بارك في أولادنا. اللهم استر بناتنا. اللهم وحد كلمتنا على ما تحب وترضى. اللهم اغفر لنا خطايانا جميعا. اللهم اصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا. واصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معادنا. واصلح لنا آخرتنا التي فيها معادنا. واجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask you to guide us just like you guided Salman and the rest of the Sahaba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask you to unite us on the word, on the beautiful word Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu Muhammadan Rasulullah. Oh Allah, we ask you to bless our children and bless the teachers and bless this school and make it a good example for Muslims and for non-Muslims, to make us from amongst those that people look at and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make us from amongst those people that the Prophet ﷺ said that there are people, when you look at them, you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll ask Allah to make every one of you from those. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us success in this dunya and success in the hereafter by entering Jannah with Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم. قوموا إلى صلاتكم رحمكم الله. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Line up properly, inshallah. Close the gaps, foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder, inshallah. The Prophet ﷺ used to walk behind the line and make sure it is straight with his own hand. Let's make sure when we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our lines are nicely done so that we're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as nicely as we can. Inshallah, fix the first line, inshallah. Go back a little bit at the end. Inshallah. Let's have khushu' in our salah, and let's inshallah not go down heavily when we're making our sujood. Allah Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. السلام عليكم السلام. I have a very quick personal story to share with you, inshallah. That one is for amusement, inshallah. But it's also to tell you that these kind of miracles still exist. So somebody would say, well, these things used to happen during the times of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'll share a story that happened with me personally, so inshallah you take me as an authentic source. So two years ago, we were in Ramadan. I used to live in Massachusetts before I come here, as you know, as some of you may know. And we used to have a very, very small masjid. To give you a perspective of how small it is, sometimes when we pray Taraweeh, we only had one line of people praying. Okay? And Ramadan, the Taraweeh was starting to get pretty late. We start like almost at 10 o'clock, you're finishing like 11:30, midnight. We were praying, and then during the middle, I heard some noise at the back. And then we used to take a break after 10 rak'ahs, and then inshallah start do a little dars for people to drink some water. Then we do the remaining 10 rak'ahs. One of the brothers in our masjid comes to me and says, there's a person who wants to be a Muslim. It's 11 o'clock in Massachusetts, in a place that has very minimal amount of Muslims. I'm like, where is this person coming from, subhanallah? So I started talking to him, and I said, what is it? What's the story behind you? I mean, you sure you want to become a Muslim? He's like, do you want to wait till tomorrow? Do you want to talk more about it? He is ready to become a Muslim at 11 o'clock at night in Ramadan, in a place that doesn't even have 50 Muslim families. And the Muslim families, you cannot, subhanallah, a lot of them, you cannot tell the Muslim from the non-Muslim. Yani. So it's not a very strong, mashallah, community like here in Dallas, where you, subhanallah, you have a lot of masajid, a lot of women wearing hijab, a lot of that stuff. We come from a small, may Allah bless them all, yani, but it's a small community. It's hard to tell. There are Muslims who exist there. So he says, yes, I want to do the shahada. And he says that I've been trying to become a Muslim for 6 years. Imagine that. He's been trying to become a Muslim for 6 years. He had some Muslim friends from Africa. Every time that he tries to talk to them about Islam and being a Muslim, they ignore him. How funny is that? They ignore him. Now when somebody wants to become a Muslim, we'd say the Shahada, everybody cries a little bit, and takbir, and the whole 9 yards, mashallah. But he was ignored for 6 years. And he's been having dreams that he wants to become a Muslim. He has to become a Muslim. So for the last 2-3 nights, he hasn't been able to sleep. So he started searching on Google, and he came to our little tiny musalla. It was a basement of somebody's house, to give you a perspective of how small it is. And he becomes a Muslim. He says the Shahada. First thing he's asking me, brothers and sisters, he says, you guys are in Ramadan now, right? I can start fasting. I'm like, I don't want this guy to give up on Islam the next second day. He's gonna fast from like 4 a.m. in the morning till 8 p.m. and he just turned as a Muslim at 11 p.m. the night before. He says, inshallah, little by little. So I didn't want to give him a straight answer. I didn't want to say yes or no, right? I didn't also want to be held responsible that I told him no. He said, inshallah, little by little we'll start teaching you. Wallahi, brothers, he comes the next day at iftar time and he was fasting. He fasted the next day. And he said, but he says also another thing. He said, I have my wife and three kids are upstairs with the women used to gather. 3 kids, the eldest of them is 5 years old. He said, but my wife has some time to become a Muslim. His wife brothers are from Ghana, from one of the African countries called Ghana. And in Ghana there are Muslims, but the Muslims have a lot of ignorance that when his wife used to visit her uncle who was a Muslim, he used to tell her, we are Muslims, we don't clean the house, you come and clean the house for us. This was his ridiculous da'wah. Not da'wah, he was turning her away from Islam. So many horrible stories that the woman had, that she not just didn't want to become a Muslim, she hated Islam. So he said she has a lot of time. So inshallah, I said, well, the ladies were having a summer camp in the Ramadan. Have her come tomorrow, inshallah, meet the ladies and the children mixed with the other children. And inshallah, little by little, Allah will open her door. The next day at 2 p.m., she's texting him, I am a Muslim. She came to the masjid and she learned about Islam, and that all of this nonsense that she's been living with about Islam is all, it's the opposite of true Islam. And she becomes a Muslim. And they are struggling and trying their best to raise a Muslim family with 4 children now, not just 3. Things happen. When you want to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wallahi, the doors will open to you. Allah is not going to shut the door in front of you. Be a source of guidance. Be a source of love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you go to the masjid as a young one, pray properly. Make the elder ones, maybe they never had to go to a Muslim school. I'm sorry if I'm extending a little bit, but these are the 2 points that hurt my heart, wallahi, when I go to the masajid. I want your salah to be better than my salah. I want to, when I see you pray, I remember maybe my ruku' is not very proper. Maybe I should have a proper ruku'. Look at these children praying properly. Or do we go to the masjid to just run around? Run around and play after we do the salah, no problem. And I'll play with you as well. But during the salah time, I want you to teach the uncles who never had proper Islamic education how to perform the salah. When they see you, they say, mashallah, look at the salah of this child. My salah is horrible compared to him. I have to start improving my salah. Be a source of guidance. Be a flashlight to others around you. When you go home, tell that story to your siblings. Tell that story to your mother, to your father, to others. Share the love that you have for this deen. But first you have to establish the love for the deen in your own heart. If you don't have love, you cannot give love. You have to have light in your heart, and then inshallah, I ask Allah to make you all beacons of light that give and guide to the Islam. The older ones before the younger ones. The older ones start taking this as a responsibility to act in front of the younger children and the younger grades, and then the younger grades take it on as the other ones graduate, inshallah, and move on. Jazakumullah khairan for listening, and I hope I wasn't too lengthy. Jazakumullah khairan.